But there was some stuff happening with Lonnie that needed to be addressed, and instead of him repenting from those things, he gets put aside. And that's where John and Lonnie were together, in the house. And John, whom we interviewed, pretty much confronted Lonnie about his behavior, his bitterness, his offense. And then Lonnie kind of pretty much goes off the rails. And so he was already divorced, and then he practices, or does some homosexual things that gets him AIDS. And next thing you know, in 1991, he admits that he already has AIDS. And John, who he repents to, walked with him during those last few years. And Lonnie died very painful, a very excruciating death, because that's what AIDS do. But in his book, he mentioned that homosexuality is a sin, and the consequences of that sin we reap in our own body. And so, just because you were a part of a movement or used by God, it makes no difference. Sin is sin. Sin doesn't care about what you did before you start doing that sin. So sin has no regard for, your theological preferences. If you do sin, sin brings death. That's all. And so sin doesn't care, your degrees or even your beliefs. You practice sin. Sin is going to have its consequences. God is merciful and God is kind to forgive us and restore us. But certain consequences of sin will not be removed, and we will have to experience them. Sometimes God steps in and intervenes, and sometimes it's actually not happening. We have to pay for those consequences. Samson, when he committed sin, he lost his eyes. And when he, at the end, it seems like he reconciled with the Lord, but he didn't get his vision back. He didn't get his freedom back. He died. And so Lonnie pretty much tragically died. But he reconnected to the Lord. He got restored to God. And something that John shared with us that I think is a very good takeaway from all this. You have to love Jesus with everything in you. That's the first commandment. And the second thing is you have to keep your heart pure. There will be so many reasons to be offended. There will be so many reasons to be bitter. You have to keep your heart pure from all of that. Maybe your heart is filled with pain right now. Maybe your heart is filled with hurt. Maybe your heart is filled with abuse. Maybe you're stockpiling so much stuff from your past, and your heart is contaminated. Bring it to God. Find a counselor, therapist. Maybe it already has passed beyond that, where you now not only have pain, you got demonic oppression. Get deliverance. But you will still need to deal with pain. Even after your deliverance, you will still need healing for your heart, and you will still need to learn to walk out in forgiveness. Please, don't go swimming in the sea of ministry if you're bleeding. Sooner or later, that bleeding will attract sharks. People who continue to do ministry while bleeding will not only bleed out, but they will attract sharks. Sharks are demons. One of the open doors to demonic attacks in your life, demonic control in our life, is unresolved trauma, unresolved offense, unresolved hurt, unresolved rejection. And so we have to deal with that stuff. We have to get counseling. We have to get sometimes therapy. And for some people, and actually many people, they have gone beyond that, where now they have a spiritual problem, and they need both the practical help and the supernatural deliverance. And so the Lord wants us to finish strong. We cannot finish strong if we're bleeding and we're not addressing the wound. And we cannot finish strong if we're not willing to run after Jesus and love Jesus with everything within us. So we got to burn for Jesus. But we also have to stop the bleeding and address the wound. Cleanse the wound through forgiveness, through deliverance, so that we can finish strong. It's my prayer. It's my strong desire that my generation, you guys, we don't just start well, we finish well. And to do that, we have to get our basics in order. We have to keep our families healthy, keep our marriages healthy, keep our bodies healthy, keep our heart healthy. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Not allow the critics, not allow the naysayers, the accusations to really bring heaviness and bring distraction in our hearts. They focus on Jesus. Keep our hearts pure and go for the long haul.